Hey guys, if you already don't know, my name is John Hua. I'm a Chinese Vietnamese Canadian who's been living in Vietnam for just over 2 years now. I was born in Canada, but my parents are born in Vietnam. My dad is Chinese, fully Chinese, but born in Hanoi, and my mom is Vietnamese and born in Quang Ngai. Both my parents didn't actually meet in Vietnam. They actually met while they moved to Canada. They both left Vietnam just after reunification, so they had to basically give up everything that they had back home and start a new life, essentially. Both my parents were brought to a small town called Stratford, Ontario. In Stratford, there's about 31,000 people, so you can imagine that there weren't many Asian people around, let alone any Vietnamese people. So it made a lot of sense for them to get together and to try to start a life together. First, it was my older brother who was born. He was born in Stratford. And a few years after that, my parents moved to Toronto, where I was born, and then a few years after that, my sister was born. I didn't really experience too much Vietnamese culture or traditions, so growing up, I often associated myself with more as being a Chinese Canadian. Even growing up, I didn't really know too much about Vietnam. I was only familiar with a few Vietnamese foods such as bún, bánh xèo, bánh mì, phở, and bánh cuốn. So I didn't have a lot of experience with real Vietnamese cuisine. Because I was born as a Canadian and brought up Canadian, I only spoke English. We did try to learn Chinese when we were younger, but we gave up because we were all lazy about learning another language. And so we never learned Vietnamese, and that made it really difficult for me and my brothers and sisters to communicate with my mom specifically, because my mom's English ability is really low. There was a lot of miscommunication a lot of the times. It wasn't until I started traveling Southeast Asia a couple years ago, and specifically Vietnam, where I had this opportunity to meet so many Vietnamese people, not only just friends, but strangers, complete strangers, who showed me and introduced me to the different traditions and society of Vietnamese people. And it was only until then that I really started to learn what it meant to be Vietnamese. Now that I've lived in Vietnam for over 2 years now, I really feel like everything that I've learned, I've become Vietnamese. I think it's a big shame if Vietnamese people who are living abroad, living outside of Vietnam, don't learn about our culture or our traditions. You know, if you grow up as a Canadian, or you grow up as Australian, or wherever it is that you're growing up, and you're not introduced to or familiarizing yourself with that tradition and culture, then then it's lost and it's gone. And I feel like that is really unfortunate if you grow up and you lose that part of yourself. With that being said, I thought it'd be a great opportunity for me to learn how to cook Vietnamese food and also learn how to speak Vietnamese. I find that I'm really shy when it comes to speaking Vietnamese because I'm always afraid that they're not going to understand me, and so I don't speak Vietnamese. So I hope that you subscribe to my channel, and if you have any suggestions or ideas of what Vietnamese food that I can cook, please just write them in the comments below. I'll definitely take a look at them and then try to add it to another YouTube video. And most importantly, I think I would love to share what it means to be Vietnamese and share Vietnamese culture to everybody around the world. That's it for now, and I hope you guys can check out my next vlog in the next coming days. And like I said, if you guys have any suggestions of what food I can cook, just write them in the comments below. Thanks, see you.